All right. What is up, Supercoach Nation? Wow. Let's start that again. What is up, Supercoach Nation? My name is Trevor. I'm the CEO of Coach Catalyst, and it is 12 o'clock, almost. It's 11:59 and 50 seconds on Tuesday. That means we are Build with the CEO. And today, and really this month, we are going to be talking about onboarding. So if onboarding is something that's important to your business, and if it's not important to your business, I would argue a few things, and we should work on it. So that's what the next month is going to be about. We're going to go deep into onboarding. We're going to talk a lot about how to make onboarding better, ways to do it effectively, and go about that. But like, I think most coaches get onboarding wrong, right? And I was one of them. I thought onboarding was just like this, like, let's collect information from our clients. I felt like that was onboarding. I really wasn't actually thinking about the experience. I was thinking about more of like, how do I, get them into our systems and get them, start coaching them, right? And so I was thinking about onboarding as like, hey, I have an assessment form that I need them to fill out. We're probably having them do an in-body. Maybe they have like a one-on-one first session or something like that if it's for the in-person gym. But like, we were thinking about onboarding as more of like admin, right? Like all the things we needed to do in order to get this person up to speed. And we weren't actually thinking about like the psychology around onboarding. And we're going to get into some of that today on like the real purpose of onboarding is really around the psychology. Most people think about onboarding as like the admin, right? When we should really be thinking about it as like activation. We should be thinking about onboarding as activation, because I'm going to show you a study here in a little bit that will hopefully open your eyes on why this is important. So recently I was just at an event, and it was out in Michigan, and I did like a 3-hour workshop. So the first half of the workshop was on what we call before the sale, and the second half of the workshop was on after the sale. And we took the attendees through a process of like mapping out exactly the pieces that happen and the tech that they need before the sale, and the pieces that happen and the tech that they need after the sale. And the first thing after the sale is we transition someone from giving us their credit card to a member is onboarding, right? And most of the people at the event just didn't have that process mapped out. Maybe they schedule their first session, and that was the extent of onboarding. And that was really an aha moment for me, where it's like, we need to talk about this stuff because it's that important. And for most of you listening to this, and I was in the same place, was our onboarding was just really, we'll call it mismanaged, right? Stuff that was in person was done really well, but there was a lot of gaps in between. There was a lot of gaps in between that we weren't able to fulfill. And honestly, it wasn't until we started developing Coach Catalyst that like, okay, like this makes sense on how we can put all these pieces together and make it a really human experience. Because some people's onboarding sequence is like you put them on an email sequence. Cool. Like that's better than nothing. But the onboarding process system should be dynamic. It should be interactive, not just like, here is the information. And I'll explain a little bit more on why that's important. But I asked the question at the event on if you have a retention issue, what's the first thing you should focus on? And they gave out some really good answers, right? They gave out some really good answers at the event. They talked about we should be looking at attendance. This was a workshop or a conference for gym owners. They were talking about attendance, right? We should be looking at attendance, which actually is a good leading indicator, right? If someone stops coming to the gym or stops showing up, the likelihood of them canceling is pretty high, right? It makes sense, right? They're no longer getting value from the services. That is one, but that isn't the most important. Other people talked about communication or connection, which also plays into it. But the answer that I was really looking for, and I'll explain why here in a second, was onboarding. So it seems a little bit counterintuitive, but if I want to improve my retention rate, which is potentially 6, 9, 12, 18, 2, 3 years down the road, if I improve my onboarding process, I will improve my retention rate. The better we onboard people, the longer they stay. First impressions matter, and we can systemize it. Right, so it doesn't matter if you're running it or a teammate is running it or anyone is running it. We can systemize this process to create connection throughout the process, instill belief, right, and remove remorse. And we'll talk about kind of some of those concepts here as we go along. But I want to show you this study. So if you're watching live, I'm going to share a screen with you, and we'll see if I can do this successfully. So we're going to share a screen, all right, right through here. Okay. So on the screen here is a study, and I showed this study at the event, and this is actually the slide deck from the event. But in the landmark study, 1 million strong, an in-depth study of member retention in North America. This is Dr. Paul Bedford. One of his key findings was around the effectiveness of a thorough onboarding process. Okay, 87% of members onboarded correctly still remained active after 6 months. 87% of members. And this study was done in big box gyms, right, where our retention rate is the worst. And so just think, if you're providing an incredible experience, you're providing value, you're getting people to show up, like those numbers are going to be even higher for you. But this was like the light bulb moment, the aha moment for me, where I was like, onboarding is really, really important, and we need to do a better job with it. And fortunately, like, we're developing Coach Catalyst, and you can do this through Coach Catalyst. But it was like, what are the components that we need in an onboarding to make this really, really successful? And so most people focus on really like the sales script, right? Like, what's that last piece, right? Like getting that person to commit, which is really important. And we need to have a good process in where we're showing the client how we can solve their problem, right? And we have this huge body of proof of people that can solve their problem. And you can be a great salesperson, but the moment they leave that meeting, they've given you their credit card, they've agreed to coaching, they're ready to rock and roll, they're motivated, they're going to leave your facility, the Zoom call, whatever. And the first thing that's going to go into that's going to come into their mind is like, was that a good decision? Right? Was that a good decision? There is probably going to be a level of buyer's remorse. Right? I was in the moment, like, he said all the right things, or she said all the right things, they could solve my problem, but now I'm back in my car, or I'm off the call. Like, was that a good decision? It's very emotional. Sometimes sales conversations can be really emotional. Sometimes clients cry in them. Like, they can be very emotional. And when someone makes a decision in that state, when they come out of that emotional state, they're kind of like, wow, what kind of just happened, right? And the most common mistake that I see coaches make is they just go silent after the sale. They just go silent. There's nothing that really happens, which is really detrimental, right? Because we essentially sold the vacation to them in that consultation, right? We sold the result that we were going to help them achieve, weight loss, mental clarity, whatever the outcomes that we help people achieve. But that's going to take 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years, whatever, right, to achieve. And so we've sold them a future that is a long ways out, right? And when someone gets out of that motivational setting where you were helping them through the process, they're going to have a little bit of doubt. And if you go silent in those moments, now the client is going to potentially have some levels of buyer's remorse. And do you think a client that has buyer's remorse is going to come into the first meetings like excited to rock and roll? No, they're going to be questioning a lot of what we're doing, right? And so I'm going to give you some things here today that at least help get the ball rolling and give you some ideas on how to execute this. But over the next, I don't know what we're going to do, 3 episodes on this, 4 episodes on this, we're going to go a little bit deeper, right? We're going to go a little bit deeper into this stuff so you guys can create a really, really good onboarding process. But what I want you to take away from really all of these calls are principles. Okay, they're principles, because you're going to add your own flavor. You're going to add in your own systems to make this work. But if you understand the principles, you can create something that's meaningful, really meaningful for your clients. Okay, and so When we think about retention, right, like I talked about earlier, retention really starts at day zero. The moment someone gives you their credit card, we should be thinking about retention, right? And we should be thinking about how we can create an incredible experience. Like I like the idea of like a welcome mat. How do we lay that out for someone right away? So let's kind of break down like the psychology after someone buys, right? With this buyer's remorse window that I was just talking about a little bit earlier. Like when someone leaves, the energy and motivation of the setting with you because you're a great coach and you can show them the future and how you can help them be successful, right? They're going to be questioning like, was that a good decision? Right. So how do we counteract that? Right. Because there may be a little bit of regret. So the two things that we're going to be doing early in the onboarding process is we want to eliminate regret and we want to reinforce belief. I'm going to say that again because this is like important principle stuff here. We want to eliminate regret and we want to reinforce belief. Okay, as quickly as possible. We want to start building some momentum with this client. We want to create clarity. We want to create some wins. We want to create connection as quickly in the process as possible. Okay, so again, we want to eliminate regret and we want to reinforce belief. And there's certain things that we can do immediately to help us do that inside of this process. So let me move a couple windows around here so I can just see what I need to see. Okay, perfect. All right, if you have questions as we're going along, Facebook has been kind of janky. I'm going to try and kind of refresh it every once in a while to see if there is questions that pop up. Sometimes they pop up, sometimes they don't. YouTube seems to be a little bit better if you're on there. And then I also have it open over here on Riverside. So if you're listening on Riverside, just drop it into the chat. I've got that live stream going here as well. And so, all right, let's get into it. So we want to eliminate regret and we want to reinforce that belief. Okay, how do we do that? How do we eliminate regret? Okay, we immediately follow up with that person or we start mapping the next steps as quickly as possible in that process. Ideally, in that meeting with the client, right? In that sales meeting where they gave you your credit card and they signed up for whatever program, we are going to lay out the exact steps that we are going to take now in order to start building some momentum. That might be scheduling their first meeting. It might be setting up the technology, which is something that we do in that first meeting. We set our clients up on the FF Coach app, which is a branded version of Coach Catalyst, right? Inside of that first meeting, because they are now one of our members and now they get exclusive access to us. So, and that's important, like that language there is important, exclusive access to us. We have a branded app because it feels different. It's not just another random app. It is their portal to us as coaches that they can use at any time to get help, right? And it's exclusive to our clients. Only our clients get this type of access to us. If you send us a text message, right, we're going to get back to you at some point, but it's not as quick as the messages that we get back to inside of FF Coach because those are our clients and we want to get back to them as quickly as possible, right? So we're eliminating this regret by showing them the path. We painted this future, but that future was maybe 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months down the road, right? So I want to show them the next step in their journey. Okay? And we're going to explain it in that meeting. We maybe have them download the tech, but the client's probably going to forget it, right? So we probably need to reiterate that. Again, and here's where I like putting them on an onboarding sequence, right? So the minute they leave that meeting, we assign them to a program. Okay? And that program is the onboarding program. And day one of that program is a video, ideally from you, that is welcoming them into your program. Super excited for you to be part of this program. You know, it might feel like a lot right now. We're kind of throwing a lot at you. Over the next week, we're going to lay everything out step by step so we can start building some momentum and get you moving towards your goal, right? And maybe today there's something that you need them to do. Maybe you need them to fill out, you know, if you're an online coach, you just kind of did a consultation over Zoom or some virtual setting, and now you need them to potentially fill out an assessment form, right? An in-depth assessment form. Maybe that's what you want them to do on day one. So that video is talking about that assessment form, having them fill it out, things they need to know, how much time should they set aside to be able to do that, right? We're just creating clarity on what we need from that person today. If you are an offline, or if you are like brick and mortar or a facility, that may look different on what that video is. But we want to just get that to them right away, right? Because we're eliminating, we don't even want regret to pop into their mind. We're moving, right? We sold it, cool, let's start doing stuff. Let's not wait a week for your first session. Like, let's start getting you on an onboarding and start collecting the information we need from you right away so we can start building some wins. Okay, so that's a huge piece. We want clarity, we want wins, and then we want some connection. So I would probably at that time schedule a message to go out to that client in the next day or two, or even better, the next day record a personal message to that client. Hey, Trevor, thanks so much for coming in yesterday. I'm super excited to work with you. You really remind me of my client, Fred, who I worked with 6 months ago. He came in with some of the exact same, concerns that you had. Very similar situation. He had 20, 25 pounds that he wanted to lose. And Fred, when he came in, he started killing it right from day one. He really followed the program, and he was able to drop 10 pounds in that first month. And has now since lost 30 pounds. You remind me a lot of him, and I think you're going to have a very similar outcome. I'm super excited to start working with you. And if you have any questions at all, just hit me up with a message right here. It comes directly to my phone. Cool. So there's a couple of things that we did there, right? We're not even letting doubt creep into their mind, because they're probably thinking once they've left, hey, I've tried something like this 10 times before and I haven't been successful, right? Why is this time going to be any different? Right? And you want to change it, right? You want to eliminate that doubt right from the beginning. And so that's what we call reinforcing or instilling belief in the client. Really, how we instill belief, right, is show them proof of other people that look like them that have achieved what they want to achieve. That's all belief is. Someone has done it before you that was in the exact same situation. And so we want to try and take some of those testimonials, some of that social proof, and weave it into these people to show them other people that have been successful. We like to do it throughout the onboarding process. Have 2 or 3 different testimonials or social proof where people can see themselves in others and see the success that others have. Now we're instilling the belief in them that they can also be successful. So sometimes it's good to have a couple different onboarding programs that speak to different avatars or different clients. Maybe one's like women, weight loss, or even different age groups, and other ones maybe like men, muscle gain, or whatever your target market is, right? If you just have one core one, it's pretty easy. But if you have a few different avatars inside of your business, then maybe have a few different programs that speak to those like that individual person. And I think the core of it could be the same, right? Like onboarding could be all very similar, but you're going to speak to specific individuals around testimonials and social proof, right? We want someone to see themselves in that individual. And so that's what we talk about reinforcing belief. So when we're looking at our onboarding program from a high level principle standpoint, are we instilling and reinforcing belief in our clients throughout that process? If we're not, cool, let's add that in. Okay. Are we eliminating regret as part of this process? Are we eliminating buyer's remorse? Are we removing doubt throughout this process? And the best way to do that is to create clarity and to create next steps and have some milestones or potential wins as part of this process. Okay. A win might be reading their lesson every day. Cool, awesome, let's celebrate that win, right? But is our process clear for the client? Right? They don't know anything about your business. You're inside of your business. You know everything about your business. It all seems like second nature to you because you wrote the book. They have not read a page of your book. And so we need to introduce them in the introduction. Page 1, what do they need to know in order to be successful with your coaching program? So is there clarity? Is there clarity in your process? Is it really clear for the client? And it should be the details, like the smallest of things. Right? How quickly are you going to get back to a client when they have a question, right? When can they expect their workouts if that's something that we're delivering? Just kind of lay out what the expectations are for the program, what their expectations should be of you, and what your expectations are of the client. We can lay all this up. Video format is the best. A video format is the best if we can execute that. Don't let it slow you down though. Just do written content right away if you need to, but we want to try and add as much video into our onboarding? Because connection, right? Them watching you, them seeing you, them learning from you is going to build connection. And now if we're an online coach or we don't have a lot of physical connection, this becomes even more important. But I think it's important either way, and it's too easy to do, right? It's too easy to do. So eliminate regret, reinforce belief, okay? Now, a lot of onboarding processes kind of have a fair amount of friction. There's some moving parts to them. And so we want to try and streamline this stuff as much as possible. Are there forms that the client needs to fill out? Is there tech that the client needs to understand? Do they need to, is there a certain level of understanding of the actual program, right? Again, we come back to this idea of clarity. Is it really clear on everything that we need? Most coaches, or at least the onboarding programs I've seen and audited, kind of blast all of this stuff to a client, like one email. Here's everything I need from you, right? Think about it from the client standpoint. This is new, this is overwhelming already, and now I have to do all of this stuff. Like, is that a good first impression? And like, it's pretty obvious, right, that the answer is no. And so what would be a better impression? To drip this stuff out, okay? To drip this stuff out over the course of like 5 days, 7 days, 10 days, 30 days, right? Like, we don't need to try and cram it all into 2 days. Hopefully this relationship with this client, this is just the beginning of a long relationship that may last 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, 5 years, right? And so spending a little bit more time creating an incredible experience in those first 30 days is worth it. Even if maybe we slow down a little bit of the results. But I think you can do both, right? I think you can do both. So think like one major item per day. If they're filling out a form, cool, that's the one thing on that day. If there's a really important video where you're walking them through all of the tech, that's one thing on that day, right? If they have to sign a waiver, one thing on that day. Expectations or understanding of the program, one thing, on that day, right? One thing a day, streamline it, map it, and then just start executing on it. Okay? We want to build excitement. We want to start building momentum. We want them to have wins. And the wins can be simple. Fill out the form. Sweet, that's a win. Marked out that you read the lesson. Cool, that's a win. Watch the video. Cool, that's a win. Let's start stacking wins. Let's start stacking wins throughout the program, throughout the onboarding, right? Because you're not just onboarding the clients, right? You're instilling belief. You're really onboarding belief, right? Because if a client begins your program with belief that they can be successful, they are going to be a better client, right? If someone is coming in already with doubt and regret, they're just going to be looking for a reason to quit, right? And so we want to instill that belief right from the get, okay? So the call to action this week is to audit your onboarding, okay? That is the goal, audit your onboarding. Do you even have an onboarding process? And that's okay if you don't. If you don't have one built out, let's start mapping it. If you have something, and a lot of coaches just kind of do this through like kind of intuition in a way. It's like, all right, what does your intuition say? If you got a new client, what does that process look like? Just like you would give your clients a food journal to understand their nutrition and their diet and their behaviors, we're going to do the same thing with an onboarding, right? We need to do a food journal for your onboarding so that you can understand the exact process that you take people through. And if you're the coach, you may just do that naturally right now, but we need to map that out so we understand it and then we can make it better, right? If we want someone to eat more vegetables, we need to understand if they're eating vegetables right now and what vegetables they are currently eating and if they even like vegetables and all that fun stuff before we can start to make recommendations. So you're going to be doing a self-audit here. Really, really simple. Okay. If you were onboarding yourself into your program, would it be clear? Would you be excited? Would you feel seen? Right? Because that's another piece of this, right? Is those personalized touch points throughout. Are we including those? That all kind of blends into this idea of momentum and building momentum through this. So your call to action, your task for this week is to audit your process. See if we can get it written down. Right, just start mapping it out. What happens after someone gives me their credit card? Okay. And then throughout this month, we're going to kind of build on these concepts. Next episode, we're going to be diving into the 3 phases of onboarding. and why you're probably skipping the most important one. So we'll get into that, what those phases are, how to start doing it. And honestly, if there's another coach or someone that you feel like would benefit from this, send the link over to them, get them involved in our circles. These episodes are all about helping you become a better coach based upon what I'm doing in my current businesses, what we're seeing in other Coach Catalyst businesses, and just general business and psychological principles. So that's it. You don't really need a better sales pitch. You just need to help clients with a better start. And if they have a better start, they're going to stay a lot longer and you get more opportunity to change their lives. So if this has been helpful at all for you, definitely drop a comment. That's helpful for me to know that, hey, this stuff is resonating with you. If there are other questions or things that come up after listening to this episode, tag me in the comments. I can include it in a future episode or even just answer it right then and there. So this week, get your onboarding mapped out, lay it out so that we can start improving it over the next couple of weeks. My name is Trevor. I'm the CEO of Coach Catalyst. Signing off. We'll see you next week, Tuesday, same place, same time. All right. We'll see you later.